everybody. I'm Karen Hartglass. You're listening to It's All About Food. Very, very special day, at least for me. We have on the podcast today, Ellie Laks. Ellie Laks is the founder of the Gentle Barn Foundation, a national organization that rescues and rehabilitates unwanted animals and heals people with histories of trauma. She is an animal communicator, energy healer, TEDx speaker, educator, and the author of My Gentle Barn, Creating a Sanctuary Where Animals Heal and Children Learn to Hope. Ellie founded the Gentle Barn in 1999 and has since hosted hundreds of thousands of people who have come there seeking hope. She is the creator of cow hug therapy, as well as her gentle healing method, which allows old, sick, injured, and terrified animals to recover using a mixture of Western medicine, holistic healing modalities, holding therapy, and lots of love. Ellie lives at the Gentle Barn's California location with her partner, Jay Weiner, who runs the organization with her. They have 3 children, hundreds of animals, and much to be grateful for. Ellie wants to spend the rest of her life improving the lives of animals and opening the hearts of humanity toward them in any way she can. Find out more at gentlebarn.org, as well as ellielaks.com. Ellie, welcome to It's All About Food.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, I don't know if you remember, but I've interviewed you 3 times before in 2014, 2017, 2019. And I loved reading your book, My Gentle Barn, Creating a Sanctuary Where Animals Heal and Children Learn to Hope. And I'm just so in awe of your story and everything you've done. And I've read Cow Hug Therapy. And all I just want to do is tell everybody, read the book. We don't need to talk anymore. Just read the book. Bye. It's just such an amazing book. I do want to talk about it, though. So once again, I'm going to thank you for joining me. And I just look forward to dig into cow hug therapy and everything about the Gentle Barn. Now, before we really get started, I heard this little chip. Who's with you today?
I have a rooster and a hen in the office. They're a little couple, and the hen isn't feeling well. So should we have her in the office so we can kind of keep her still and quiet? She's going to the vet this morning.
Oh.
But we couldn't separate them because they're like a little married couple. So he's in here too, and he has a lot to say.
That's great. I was just talking on my last podcast with Bill Crane, who also has a sanctuary, a little one. And we were talking about roosters and how difficult it is because people want to have hens in their backyards for eggs and whatever, but nobody wants roosters, especially in an urban environment like New York City. Not that we don't have any noise here, but nobody wants to hear rooster noises. Okay, we can hear fire alarms and sirens and kids screaming, but roosters aren't allowed.
Which is crazy because their sound is so amazing.
Yeah.
I wake up to the sound of roosters crowing every single morning. And when I travel, I can't sleep because it's too quiet.
I think it's a comforting sound. Natural sounds are comforting. Okay.
I agree.
So the Gentle Barn is 25 years old?
The Gentle Barn is 25 years old. We are celebrating in August. It's weird being in this moment because on one hand, so much has happened. And on the other hand, it's a blink.
Sure, that's life.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the thing that fascinated me the most about this book is you talk about all these different animals that you've saved, and they're all real characters. They're real personalities. They're real persons. I know there are animal attorneys trying to get personhood established for different species, and we're not quite there yet. But all of these animals are persons. They have emotions. They have personalities. And you bring all of that out. And it's amusing, sad, I don't know. When we're kids, we love these books that are about animals, and the animals are all alive and they're characters, and we talk to them, they talk to each other, and kids accept that as natural, and we see cartoons and movies and all the animals are talking. And yet if somebody was to hear some of your stories, they might go, animals don't do that. They don't communicate, they don't talk, they don't feel, this is all crazy. But we accept it as children, and some of us accept it as adults. But I love this book because you brought out so many people. I want to call them people, these non-human animals, because they are. I cried a lot. Okay. So thank you for all these stories. Really profound. I have a question about being an animal communicator. You talk about it later in the book. I don't want to talk about the stories in the book because I want people to read all the stories, and maybe we'll talk about some of them, but I'm going to try to not to. But you talk about being an animal communicator. Now, some of it, I think came naturally to you, and then you also studied it. Can you explain what that means and what it entails?
Yes. So animal communication is just simply intuition. And every single living being on this planet operates with intuition. I'm sure you've seen a school of fish move at the exact same time. It's not there's a leader and a follower. They're literally moving at the exact same time. It's because they're linked with intuition. You've seen maybe a flock of sparrows or swallows or birds move at the exact same time. Again, it's because they're linked intuitively. It happens a lot. Tell me if it's happened to you, where the phone will ring and before you even look at the caller ID, you know who it is.
Sure. Oh, I've had that happen a lot. Lots of different things. Absolutely.
Right? Or you'll think of someone and then all of a sudden they'll call you.
Yeah.
We are intuitive beings. Every living being is. If you look at Aboriginal cultures and Native American cultures, we operated exclusively on intuition. And animals operate on intuition too. It's how they know when it's safe to go down into the lake. It's how they know when it's okay to emerge out of the woods and graze on the fields. Intuition keeps them alive. Intuition is how they survive and how they connect with one another. We are intuitive beings. However, with religion, with school, with our culture, it's kind of been droned out of us. As kids, we are very intuitive. We rely on our instincts and our intuition, and we are very connected to animals, like you just said. As we grow up, we're taught to sit down, be quiet, follow the rules, and listen to someone else. And we're told, oh, don't be ridiculous, stop your nonsense. And so the intuitive, still small voice inside of us gets drowned out. And as adults, we have forgotten who we are. We forget why we've come. We have forgotten the connection that we have with all life, and we get lost. And I think that that might have something to do with the depression rate, with the anxiety rate. When we're lost from each other, when we're lost from our intuition, we lose ourselves. I practiced animal communication as a child. Animals in the nearby lakes and woods would call me. I could hear them. I would go and help them and bring them home. At 11 years old, I started training dogs professionally because I could hear them loud and clear what they needed, wanted, and felt. I thought that was normal. When I got to high school, I started becoming teased and bullied for my relationship with animals. And in a desperate attempt to be quote unquote normal, I wanted to give away my gift to blend in with everybody else. The minute you deny who you are, that is a slow suicide. That did not end well, and I ended up in trouble, and I realized the only way to fully live is to embrace who I am. And so, I talk to animals, take it or leave it. There was still this shame and embarrassment about it. Like, I didn't really advertise it. I did it at the Gentle Barn with our rescued animals. Every now and then someone would find out about my gift and they would ask me for help. And of course, I was glad to share it with someone that was interested, but I didn't really advertise it. During the pandemic, my very good friend, Joan Rankwit, has a school for animal communication. She remotely teaches people around the world. And she was noticing how embarrassed and ashamed I was about my gift. And she said, you have time on your hands because it's the pandemic and the general barn is closed down. Why don't you join my school and get your confidence back? And so I did. And I did her 2-year big program, and it made me feel normal. It surrounded me with other people that were just like me. It validated my gift and it strengthened it, so much so that afterwards, my husband, Jay Weiner, who's the co-founder of the Gentle Barn, created a website for me so that I now do animal communication sessions remotely for people around the world. And now I am very proud to say, this is who I am. I talk to animals. We all do. And if you want to strengthen your gifts, check out joanrankwit.com, because you too could take classes with her and realize that we're all intuitive. I don't think that her school is teaching people things that they need to learn. I think she's helping people remember what they already know.
First, I've never liked the word intuition because I think we've really destroyed it. And we just throw things off, things that happen. Oh, it's just intuition. Intuition is this big, powerful, amazing mode of communication. It's not something that's just, it's some great intelligence, and we just turn it off. And that's a very sad thing. And then I was going to ask you, but you just said it. We all have the ability to communicate with other species. We have enough of a problem communicating with our own species. We're terrible communicators. But we can communicate with non-human animals, and we should. And you're just perhaps one of the fortunate ones who have kept that line open.
I feel really lucky. I think, like I said, like we're both saying we're all born animal lovers, but most of us grow out of it or grow away from it. And I never did. And I feel very grateful every day that I still feel like a 7-year-old when it comes to animals. The other thing is, and I'm sure you've had these experiences, but over the years, when I don't follow my instincts, bad things happen. I remember once we had a very sickly goat named Divine. Actually, I take it back. She wasn't sick. She was healthy and she loved her life. She came from a really bad cruelty situation, learned to trust, forgave the human race, and blossomed at the Gentle Barn. And a few years after we saved her, she lost her mobility. So she was no longer able to stand up. But she was bright and alert, and she loved when our staff and volunteers and guests visited with her. She had her special favorite treats. We put a little green sweater on her. We put her on a bed of fluffy straw. She loved her life, and she was absolutely happy. Our veterinarian consulted with us to see if there's anything we can do for her mobility. And the veterinarian said that she has some disease, I can't remember the name of it, and we need to bring her into the hospital for some transfusion. And immediately, my body, my soul, my instincts were screaming, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. This is years ago when I didn't stand in my certainty like I do now. And I told the vet, I have a bad feeling about this. She's so happy. She doesn't mind not moving around. We move her so she doesn't get bed sores. We tend to her every need. There's no reason that she needs to stand. And the vet practically yelled at me. You have to listen to me. I'm the expert in the room. You don't know what you're talking about. If you don't do it, it's neglect, blah, blah, blah. So this vet practically bullied me into bringing my goat Divine into the hospital. And I dropped her off. Everything in me was screaming, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I did not listen to my instincts. I listened to the quote unquote expert in the room.
Yeah.
Dropped her off, cried all the way home. And I hadn't been home an hour before I got the call that they killed her with whatever they injected her with. How did I know that? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I made a little heart-shaped dog tag with her name on it. And I wore it for years. And now I still put it on when I'm not really listening to my instincts. And it's a reminder to always listen to my instincts.
That is a great story, a sad story, and it happens every day. not just with animals. I know it happens with people, it happens with the elderly. So I'm just so many parallel stories I'm thinking of where, let's say, an older person, they want to stay home, they've discovered some cancer or something, they want to give them radiation or something, and you bring them in and they get fried and they die. And they
Oh,
were content at home. Not that
yeah,
they were going to live much longer, but did they have to be tortured?
yeah.
And just so many times. I know with my own experience, I had advanced ovarian cancer in 2006, 2007. And I know if I hadn't listened to my intuition, I would be dead. I just know
Wow.
that. I mean, I went with traditional medical care and also alternative, but it was all of those choices in balance and not going to this doctor because I was just like, get away from him. And I'm here and I'm healthy.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's
Good
so
for
important to
you to
listen.
listen to your
And I
body.
had dreams that were also guiding me. It was really a profound experience.
Wow.
So I could send you that story if you want to read
Yes, please.
it.
Yes,
um,
please.
so when you talk about in the book with these so many beautiful stories, and again, read the book, read the book, read the book. It is an incredible book. I love this book. uh, we discover the profound intelligence about life from so many of these animals, from birth and living and death. I want to understand it. And I want to understand how these non-human animals, cows and chickens and goats, how they're so much smarter than we are. Where does that come from?
It is my very strong belief that within animals' beaks, hooves, and paws are the secrets to our own humanity and happiness. And I think the reason why is because they are a more intact culture, society, and tribe than we are. The way that we live is very distorted. It is so far away from how we started. If you look hundreds of years ago, we were a matriarchal society.
Hmm.
We had a female shaman who would go out in nature and bring the medicine to us. We lived off the earth. We ate the fruits and vegetables that the earth gave us. We were connected to one another. We were connected to all life. We were part of the intricate web of life. And we were just part of it. We weren't the owner of it. We were just part of it. We are so far removed from who we were and who we're probably meant to be. It's all about conquest and control and owning, like, we are on the top of the food chain and we own the animals and we can do whatever we want and we can just mow down a forest and pollute an ocean. It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
Who we think we are and what we're doing to everyone else. Animals have not gotten lost like we have. They are intact. Not all animals, but cows and horses and pigs, they are a matriarchal society. They are led by the wisest female that helps keep everyone safe with her intuition. Their connection, their bond, their family is their most sacred ethic. They protect each other, they nurture each other, they celebrate birth, they mourn death. They are decent, they have integrity, they have ethics, they have good character. Who they are and how they show up is important. And so, because they are so much more intact as a civilization and a tribe than we are, they are here to remind us of who we can be. They're here to hold space of how we can show up. They are there to be home to return to when we're ready to awaken to love, when we're ready to remember who we used to be. They are there always to beckon us home.
Your stories are so deeply profound in terms of all the communication that you've gotten from all of these different animals. And you use it in such a beautiful way, helping humans get through their own trauma. And this book title, about cow therapy, cow hug therapy. First, tell me what a cow hug is.
So I got my first cow hug 25 years ago with our very first cow Buddha. I was checking on everybody just before I went to bed, making sure everybody was safe and sound before nightfall. And I went to pat her on the head as I was passing by to say goodnight to her. And there was a look in the eye that stopped me in my tracks. She was asking me to spend more time with her. So I sat down on the ground and I leaned my weight onto her shoulder just to kind of, chat and embrace her. And she wrapped her neck around me and held me. And I've been loved by thousands of animals, followed, trusted, all of those things. But here was an animal that was not only allowing me to love her, but she was caring for me. She was loving me back. She was embracing me. And I was so touched by that unexpected display of affection that I started weeping and weeping and weeping. Make a long story short, the longer version is in the book, Cow Hug Therapy. I started relying on those hugs every single solitary evening. That's how I ended each day. That's how I washed away the stress of each day. It's how I prepared myself for the next day. And I soon realized after a few weeks of getting hugged by her every night that it's not just me that needs these secret, amazing hugs. It's the world. And I opened the phone book and I started calling foster agencies, drug and alcohol rehab centers, domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, and every agency that helps hurting humans, and told them to bring their clients. And the first thing that we did when they came to the Gentle Barn is we went to Buddha and they got her magical hugs. And it opened them up. It helped them become vulnerable and grounded and centered. It eliminated the busy thoughts in their heads. It immersed them in present time. It melted them from cold, defensive, hardened, struggled people into open, vulnerable kids. And that's where healing starts. Healing does not start in our hardness. Healing starts in our softness, in our vulnerability, in our humbleness, and our ability to be cracked wide open to feel like an infant. And that is what cow hugs do for us. They help us become open to the healing. And it's something that is so hard to describe because it's so wonderful and words don't do it justice, but it's something that you have to feel. The energy of it, the elimination of words and thought, the shutting down of the left brain and the opening of the right brain. It's like meditation meets yoga, meets being with the love of an animal. It's remarkable what they can do for us.
Do all cows hug this way?
So just like any therapist, if you look at a human therapist, most human therapists, at least I've never met a human therapist that didn't follow this formula. They go through hardship. They go through challenges and struggle. They have to heal themselves. They have to forgive. They have to trust. They have to go through their own healing journey. And then once they've completed their own healing journey, they want to pay it forward to helping others. It's the exact same formula with cows. So when they're young, they're not ready. If they're still hurting and new at the Gentle Barn, they're not ready. But if they've done their own journey of forgiving, trusting, loving, and healing, then we always give them the opportunity to choose. It's not something that we bring to them. It's something that they come and choose. So at some point, our amazing cow hug therapists will at some point step forward and offer themselves to us for hugs, for embraces, and for that companionship. And to partner with them in this work is a tremendous honor.
You mentioned meditation, and I want to dig into that a little bit. At one point, you were talking about the daily routine of a bunch of cows at the Gentle Barn and how they would get up and they would have something to eat, and then they would all get together and go on the grass somewhere and meditate. Now, you know they were meditating because you talked to them. But what is that? And why did they do that? And do all animals do that? Is that just a cow thing? Or Do the hens meditate? Are the pigs meditating?
I have seen with my own eyes in a barnyard for 25 years with so many different species, seeing these animals sit in the stillness, be quiet, be present, be grounded, be undistracted. That's what meditation is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every single animal species does that every single solitary day, except us humans. The majority of humans have not realized the vital importance of that. We live in fast-paced, high-tech worlds. We are so distracted with a million different information coming at us from all angles. Animals are here to teach us the importance of being still, being present, being quiet, and meditating. And yes, I talk to the animals, so it's obvious to me what they're doing. However, even you looking at the cows, they'll wake up in the morning and have breakfast. They'll groom each other and show their affections with one another so they can connect. And then the matriarch will lay down and she will summon to everyone else to lay down. Their eyes are either completely closed or half open and just staring blankly ahead. They're chewing their cud. They're not rolled over on their side sleeping. They're, laying with their heads up, and they're in another place. They're not there. They're not looking at us. They're not interacting with one another. It's very, very obvious that they are meditating and just being in that sweet spot of stillness.
In some ways, I'm embarrassed that I never thought of that as a possibility. We all look at cows that we see on the side of the road, or if we're passing a feedlot, horrible place, or farms, green pastures, and cows out on the grass, not chewing their cud, just being, and thinking that they're just nothing, that they're docile and boring and not thinking, and we just naturally, I know because I've done it, or I've been trained to think this way, I don't know, but you think they're not doing anything of value. And now you've helped me realize what's going on is deeply profound and deeply valuable.
And you know what's interesting? They're probably looking back at us saying they are not doing anything of value.
Right.
Because they're connected to the other side. They're connected with each other. They're connected to their own higher selves. They're connected to their intuition and their instincts. And man, the energy of that is extraordinary. And we can maintain that energy when we're more like them.
Now, at the same time, there are billions of animals in factory farms or industrial agriculture, whatever horrible word you want to choose to describe what's going on. But the animals that you've worked with, have you had thought conversations with them about what humans are doing to so many of their brethren?
Yeah. And unfortunately, or fortunately, they're way more cognizant of what's really going on. It's very easy to think, well, they're dumb animals. They don't really know what's going on. They know everything. They know that when someone comes to visit the gentle barn, they're wearing cows on their feet. They know what leather is. They know what leather purses are. They look at us and they just say, oh, if you could just open your heart, sit with me a while and let me open your heart. Let me show you who I am and let me show you who you are. They're waiting for us to awaken to love. And they have faith in us.
I could use some of that faith. I can't say that I'm an animal communicator, but I have experienced moments where if I think about industrial farming and I think about animals that are concentrated and suffering, I can hear their screams and I have to stop it because I can't live that way. So, you just push it down and you don't let it in. But occasionally, I remember one time very vividly, being in a hotel with the chafing dishes, and they had bacon and pork and things. And I heard the screams when I smelled the smell. So I keep that way tucked down. So I imagine that these animals are connected to that as well, because it's a part of them.
Well, and if they're 10 million times more intuitive than we are,
Exactly.
because they practice it on a daily basis, and you and I are hearing the screams, can you imagine what they feel in here? I get I don't know if this happens to you, but I get very, very depressed and off kilter in October. And I'm always like, God, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why do I feel so out of sorts? Why do I feel so off kilter? And then I remember what month it is, and I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
Because whether we're aware of it or not, whether we're seeing it or not, we are feeling the genocide of billions of turkeys. We are intuitive beings, whether we're going to admit it or not. So we're connected to the suffering. We're also connected to the great beauty and joy on this planet too.
Well, I love how you're helping people that have been through trauma, young people who can't communicate and find their way, and just being with one of your animals and being close to them is so healing. There's a great lesson there. And I know that in urban areas, for example, there are more laws now allowing for emotional support animals, dogs and cats, because people have this need to have an animal with them and feel them. But we need so much more than that. And the life may not be so great for these emotional support animals that are living in city apartments. But that's what we do. We take wherever we can. Okay, so in the beginning of the book, I just want to quote something because I thought it was lovely. You wrote on page 3, I have sought out many qualified therapists and healers over the years, but it has been my rescued animals that have taught me the most about myself and about life. They have no certificates, diplomas, or graduate degrees. They've never studied how to help people heal. They don't keep records or files, and yet they know what is needed. Animals have the wisdom of the universe, pure instincts, not harnessed by society's ideas of who and what is acceptable. They have loved me, raised me, and healed me. That's everything. And in the book, you give so many examples to support exactly that. Now, the Gentle Barn, you have 3 locations.
Yes, the Gentle Barn is located in Los Angeles, California, Nashville, Tennessee, and St. Louis, Missouri. And we're hoping to expand to New York. Fingers crossed.
Yay, New York. I know you wanted to have a sanctuary in every major city in all the states in the United States. And perhaps the Gentle Barn will do that one day. I would really hope that we wouldn't need that at some point, right? But it's expensive. And you were sharing stories about saving different animals and how they would be in a veterinary hospital for a long time and getting prosthetic devices. I just kept hearing the cash register, how expensive this is. How do you pay for that?
It's extraordinarily expensive. Literally a few days ago, we had a chicken in the hospital to the tune of $3,500 trying to save her life. And we had a cow in the hospital to the tune of thousands of dollars trying to help her with her mobility challenges. It's very, very expensive. So we rely on the goodness and the compassion of the community. There's so many animal lovers, right? And so we're basically saying, well, partner with us. Help us fund this operation, help us pay for the vet care and the feed and the hay. And we'll be in the trenches with our sleeves rolled up, and we'll do the heavy lifting. We'll be up all night. We'll be, working tirelessly. We will give these animals the best care. We will bring them in from the darkest places on earth. We will share their stories. We will open the hearts of humanity. We will expand locations if you will help us. So we do this work on behalf of our very generous donors.
It's just incredible because healthcare for humans is a disaster. It's very expensive. So many people need care. And why is healthcare for humans so expensive? It's because we're torturing and eating animals for the most part. And we know how to solve that problem if we'd only pay attention and open up our intuition, right?
Right.
Okay. I wasn't going to bring up any stories, but I think one of the ones I loved the most was when you had a cow in your home. Could you just give us a little of that?
I mean, that was the best experience of my life, or at least one of them. I've had a lot of good experiences, but so during the pandemic, we were rescuing a lot of cows from the local slaughterhouse here in Los Angeles, because everything was shutting down. So the farmers didn't want to get stuck with these huge herds that they would have to pay for. And if if everything was shutting down, they didn't want to get stuck with, not being able to make money. So they were sending whole herds of thousands of cows to slaughter. And of course, cows in the dairy industry and the meat industry are always eternally kept pregnant. So they were all being sent to slaughter pregnant. And a lot of them were having babies on the kill floor. And we have an arrangement with the owner of the slaughterhouse that when a baby is born there, he will allow us to take the mom and the baby home to the sanctuary of the Gentle Barn to let them live. So we were rescuing a lot of babies and moms during the pandemic. When we got the call for John Lewis Thunderheart, there was some technical reason why the slaughterhouse would not allow us to save the mom. There was some kind of, I don't know, technical loophole, and they ended up not allowing us to have her, but we were allowed to save John Lewis. We brought him home to the Gentle Barn at a week old. He was very, very sick with pneumonia. So was his mother. So we brought him to the healing center, and we had a wonderful vet there with all the medicine and all the treatments. But we couldn't, it was 106 degrees, and we could not lower his temperature enough to save his life. And we knew we were losing him. So we brought him into our house for the air conditioning. And I moved downstairs to become his mom, because of course, if he had a cow mom, they would never be apart. Cow moms are always with their babies 24/7. So I knew that he needed that to live. So I moved downstairs and became his mom, and I slept downstairs with him. I was with him 24/7. The wonderful vet, gave us all the wonderful medicine. I took his temperature 3 times a day. I gave him medicine several times a day. I had a nebulizer that helped him breathe and break up all that phlegm. My husband and co-founder of the Gentle Barn, Jay Weiner, made a homemade oxygen tent that we would sit in 3 times a day so that he could breathe, and it started healing his lungs. And we wouldn't stop until 4 months later, he was healed.
That's so incredible.
But here's why this adventure was so amazing, and this experience. It's very easy for people to say, well, cows that you love, might be lovable, but the cows at the slaughterhouse are not lovable. And it's very easy for you to say, well, it's very easy to love dogs because they're really intelligent, but cows are really stupid. I took a cow and brought him into my house like a dog. And there was no difference between him and our dogs. He walked on a leash. He came running when I called his name. He was potty trained.
Wow.
He snuggled on the couch. He laid on a dog bed. He snuggled with teddy bears. He played with toys. There is literally no difference. And John Lewis proved that, because instead of being in a barnyard and having people say, oh, he's just a dumb cow. No, he was in the house and he was a dog. At 9 months old, so at 6 months old, I brought him down for play dates with the other cows, but I would always pick him up after a few hours. And then at 9 months old, I went to pick him up after a play date, and he refused to come home. So he wanted to live with the cows, and he wanted to be a big boy. But every single morning, he's almost 4 years old, I still go down and bring him cookies. I was bringing him a bottle every morning, but one morning I like a month ago, I brought him a bottle and he refused to drink it. So he's weaned now. But
Yeah,
every morning I bring him cookies and he runs over to me and we have our cuddle session and I sing him his morning songs and I will always be his mom.
that's right. You're a cow mom. That's the sweetest story. You mentioned at the beginning of the story that cow mothers never leave their cow baby sides for how long? Years.
No, their entire lives.
Their entire lives. And yet, what do we do to dairy cows? We separate the baby at birth or within 24 to 48 hours. This is criminal.
It's the highest form of torture for a cow. How do you torture a cow? You take their family.
Baby.
You take their babies away. That's what you do. It's the highest form of torture. It is unconscionable that we are doing this.
Ah, okay. I also want to talk about you're mentioning the matriarchal system is horizontal versus patriarchal, which is vertical. We need to know more about that.
So, like we were talking about before, hundreds of years ago, we were a matriarchal society. Cows, horses, and pigs still are. The patriarchy is very, controlling and dominating, and I'm at the top and I will do what I want, and, no regard for trees or forests or creatures.
So what we call a hierarchy is really part of the patriarchy.
We are living today in a patriarchy.
Yeah.
And I think that the patriarchy brought many technical advances, many medical advances,
Sure.
many luxurious advances, right? Like the first world, like we live in luxury. But I think that it's gone too far because that energy of control, that energy of, winning the race, being at the top of the food chain, it's gone too far and we're destroying everything around us. It's time to bring back the feminine. And I don't mean male or female. I mean masculine energy versus feminine energy. It's time to return the feminine energy of collaboration, creativity, communication, working together, lifting each other up, building communities, supporting one another, having real conversations. That's the energy of the female. And we need to bring it back. And cows exemplify that. Cows are led by a matriarchy. She gives of herself. She loves.
I heard that little rooster in agreement with you, not wanting to give up his patriarchy, but he's agreeing.
And talk about patriarchy. But the matriarchy, she's strong. She's not a pushover. She's not soft. She's not weak. She's loving. She's caring. She's protective. She's giving. And she's very strong when she needs to be. And it's time for us to start redefining the gender roles in our society. Men are afraid to cry. They won't talk about being intuitive. They kind of pat each other on the back, but they don't really hug. Girls are soft and taught to be nice. That's not getting us anywhere. We need to raise our females to have a strong voice, to know who they are, to stand in their certainty and their power. And we need to raise males to cry, to feel, to be intuitive, to have empathy, and to not be afraid of strong females.
Are there any animals, do you communicate best with cows, or is it equal with all the ones that you interact with?
It's equal. It's equal. I've even talked to a tiger, an elephant, and a bear. And at first it was like, oh my God, I'm talking to a tiger. This is crazy. And once I got in there, it's the same voice. We're all the same.
Ah, very interesting. You said it's the same voice. I wonder somehow, I'm going to just ponder on this later.
Well, in other words,
some kind of universal thread that we're all tied into somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it felt the same as talking to you. It felt the same as talking to a dog. Like, we all have the same wants and needs. We want to be respected. We want to have a purpose. We want to be safe and loved. We're the same.
Okay, so what's next at the Gentle Barn? This book has just come out. It was just released on the May 21st, right?
Yes, cow hug therapy just came out. I am really wanting millions of people to read this book so that they can open their hearts to these animals and realize that we're all the same and have a deeper connection, and maybe even inch towards making gentler choices, food choices, purchase choices. We can create peace on this planet when we awaken to love. And I'm hoping that that's what the book is going to do. So, all the listeners, read the book, share it with your friends, and help me give a further reach to these animals who have so much to say.
You've been very giving with your entire life in terms of how you've helped other animals, but also you've been very open about your own experiences, even up until most recently, as time goes on and you look at yourself and you've shared your weaknesses and your strengths and your insecurities and how you're always looking to become more and stronger. And it's just, I'm very grateful for your words, and I have no idea how you had the time to write any of it down.
Thank you so much for all those beautiful words that you just said.
How old are your children now?
26, 25, and 18.
Okay. And I'm just curious because they grew up in this environment. How has it impacted them? And are they living their lives related to this experience somehow?
I think that it was harder on my two oldest, Jesse and Molly. They were really little when I was starting the Gentle Barn. In those early years, we didn't have staff. We were strapped for money.
Mhm.
We were, trying to build an organization. There was a lot of work that went into it, and it took time away from them.
Hmm.
So I think it was difficult. In hindsight, I could have waited till they were older. Um,
Yeah, but the animals needed you right then. You listened to your intuition in many ways.
yeah, yeah. But all choices come with cause and effect and consequences. And
The road we didn't take.
right, right. So yeah, I think those early years were really hard on my two
Yeah,
oldest.
sure.
Um, but they're beautiful people. Molly has a beautiful family in Nashville. She's a mom herself now, and she's a fantastic mom. Jesse's in Texas. He just got married. And and our 18-year-old still lives at home. And I'll tell you, the thread through all three of them is their ability to stand up for injustice.
Mm.
Their, they don't hesitate to defend the weak and the innocent. They will pull a car over if there's a animal on the road. My favorite story about Jesse is when he was in 6th grade, and there was a new kid in the class, and the class bully was pushing him around in the line at the recess line. And Jesse just stood in between them and said, "Hey, you're going to pick on somebody, pick on me." And the bully and Jesse got sent to the office, and they were both suspended for fighting. And Jesse came home and he was terrified to tell us this because he thought he was going to get in trouble. And you know what we did? We gave him $100 and we took him out to dinner to celebrate his heroism. He was a hero. And we told him, I don't care what the principal says. I don't care what the teachers say. I don't care what society says. You always defend the weak and the innocent. And you did that. And we are proud of you. And that was instilled in all three kids. And I'm very proud of them.
I love that. Such great stories. What else do we need to know about you and the Gentle Barn before I let you go and the cow hug therapy? And before you even answer that, I just want to say, and I've said this recently, I am not an animal person. I just don't eat animals. I don't have any, I don't live with animals. I've never really had a desire to, and yet I love every one of your stories. I can't understand that, and maybe I need to get a cow hug to discover all of that, but that's just who I am.
Well, I guess the last thing I want to say is please come out to one of the Gentle Barn locations and hug a cow and come be with our animals, because you never know, you might become an animal person after this.
Well, I like to think I am an animal person in that I think all
Yeah.
non-human animals deserve to live the way nature intended them to live, with their families and their friends in a habitat that's appropriate for them.
Yes, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
But
But come out and hug a cow with us. I would love to have you here in person. It was so wonderful, this conversation and all your wonderful questions. Thank you for taking the time to have me and to read my book. Um,
and when do you think you're going to come to New York and open a new sanctuary? That's when I'll get
so
there.
there is a facility in New York that we have submitted a 500-page proposal for, and we are anxiously waiting for them to say yes.
Okay.
So fingers crossed, think really good thoughts. We hope to be there soon.
You know, I just, a question came up, and I want as many sanctuaries out there, because the more sanctuaries there are, not just more animals will be saved, but more people will have the opportunity to interact. But we do have a few sanctuaries already in New York.
Yes. And you had mentioned before how I said in my first book, My Gentle Barn, how we wanted to start sanctuaries in every state. I will tell you, first of all, that was, many years ago when social media wasn't as big, when there weren't as many sanctuaries. I will tell you something has changed for me in that there are sanctuaries popping up all over the place. Social media allows us to represent these beautiful animals and have a much farther reach. And it's taken 25 years to get to 3. Jay and I no longer want to have sanctuaries in every state. We do want one in New York, though. That will be our final one. What we do instead, though, is me and Jay teach a course to help other people start their own sanctuaries, so that it doesn't only have to be us doing it. Other people can be empowered by our experiences to know how to do it, what to do, where to do, so they can hit the ground running and be very, very, very successful. So, if people want to know more about animal communication, book an animal communication session, find out more about this sanctuary course, people can look at ellielaks.com. And of course, to come and get cow hug therapy, visit the Gentle Barn on a Sunday, meet our animals, and feel amazing when you leave. People can go to gentlebarn.org.
Okay, I'm glad you brought all of that up, because that was important, and I'm glad that you had mentioned the farm sanctuary training before, but we needed to hear that again, because that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's called Sanctuary 101, and it's a 12-week course virtually on Zoom. And we go through the obvious things: zoning, fencing, building, how to feed these animals, blah, blah, blah. But we also go through things that you wouldn't expect. But they are things that are really important, that literally cripple sanctuary owners and make them quit. We talk about compassion fatigue and how to recognize it and heal it and recover from it. We talk about loss and grief and how to walk an animal home.
A lot of that's in your book too.
A lot of that is in my book. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that too. So many things in the book. You just have to read the book and you can apply it to your own lives, especially what you learned in death and what the animals taught you when they were ready to go, and how they sometimes didn't want you to get in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can do that.
We can do that. We can do this.
Anyway, great success with your book and with the Gentle Barn. I'm so glad you're on the planet. And to your partner, Jay, who's just sounds so amazing and supportive in the book. And, you can't do these things without support of your partner.
Oh my God. Jay is the hero and the champion of this organization.
Yeah.
He is a remarkable hero.
Yeah. So he deserves some extra cow hugs.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. I don't want to let you go. I just want all of your Ellie Laks energy, but I'm going to let you go. And hopefully I'll see you in person one day and get a cow hug.
Yes, I say yes to that. See you soon. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been another episode of It's All About Food. I hope you got the impression that I liked this book by Ellie Laks. I loved it. Cow Hug Therapy, How the Animals at the Gentle Barn Taught Me About Life, Death, and Everything in Between. I felt so much in this book, and I can't recommend it enough. You know what? It gave me hope. I recommend reading the book, and I recommend getting to one of these farm sanctuaries. I know that I need to, and I've been saying that for a long, long time. I want to add that I've been using the concept of a cow hug in my meditations recently, since I haven't been to the Gentle Barn to get a real cow hug yet. I started meditating and imagining being next to a gentle cow and getting a hug. And I did it recently while at a doctor's appointment before getting my blood pressure taken. And as I was breathing deeply and imagining feeling this large animal's body going in and out during its breath and feeling how calm it was, my blood pressure dropped really low. Healthy low, but a nice healthy low pressure. So I've been doing that rather frequently. There's something to this. Just read Cow Hug Therapy. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Karen Hartglass. Have a delicious week.